The legend of Freemasonry is based on the building of the Temple of Solomon, and here in the Grand Lodge room in Freemasons Hall, Molesworth Street, you can see various stages of the building of the Temple of Solomon in these rather drab cartoons, as they're called, around the top of the room. This was chosen by Freemasons as the central legend to the order because it was probably, the Old Testament was probably a book you'd have found in most homes at the time. The origins of Freemasonry were uncertain about. It certainly was up and running by 1700. Today it's a moral code. It's a non-denominational where we have no spiritual basis whatsoever. And to encapsulate it for you, basically when a candidate is brought into this room and he is taught the first lessons of Freemasonry, he's given a little gavel or a hammer and he's told to make that rough stone into a smooth stone for the better building of a moral temple. And that's the central theme to all of Freemasonry. In terms of the building, this place was erected around about 1866. It was opened in 1870. Daniel O'Connell was a Freemason, a very prominent Freemason, and was our barrister for many years. There's a lot of documents here signed by Daniel O'Connell. Duke of Leinster here was resident across the road in Leinster House, now seat of the Irish government. That was his townhouse, rather nice. The symbols you see around you here, for example, the obvious one is the black and white carpet, symbolises to a Freemason that throughout his life he walks between good and evil. The square and compass is the universal symbol of Freemasonry, is simply the square, the builder's square, which gives you the right angle, which enables you to make a perfect stone from a rough stone. And the compasses are dividers, form a circle, which demonstrate the people on whose lives you impinge every day, not just Freemasons, but the people on the bus or in college or in business or whatever. And the builder square superimposed on that demonstrates that you should always give them a square deal. And that expression in English actually comes from Freemasonry, the expression a square deal. There's lots of Masons speak in English. The brother, having spent some time in the craft and having received his 3 degrees of entered apprentice, fellow craft and master mason, can ask to join other branches of the order. But in any case, the brother progressing from the blue, as we have seen inside, moves on to another section of the order, which is called the Holy Royal Arch. And as you can see, even the decor down here is making the transition from blue to red. And there's an intermediate degree which the brother receives. This rather plain room is called the Mark Lodge room. A brother is received as a master mason in here. Having received this degree, the brother can hope to move on to the Royal Arch. You'll also notice that behind me that this room's decor is red and blue, symbolising the transition from blue to Royal Arch or red Freemasonry. We'll go in and look at the Royal Arch room now, which is probably one of the most ornate rooms in the house. The symbolism here is the return of the Hebrews from Egypt to repair the Temple of Solomon. Most of the symbolism in this room is irrelevant. It's pure Victoriana. The guy who decorated it for us, the minute he heard Egypt, he said, we'll have to have sphinxes, and we'll have to have Egyptian heads, and we'll have lilies for the Nile on top of the pillars, and we'll have lotus blossoms for a vaguely Eastern effect on the ceilings of the rooms. What is relevant is the symbolism of the veils, where a brother comes in through that candidate's door down there and approaches each veil. He gives a password at each veil and gradually makes his progress towards the white veil which guards the Holy of Holies, and inside that he is then made a Royal Arch Mason. This is the last non-denominational branch of the order. As you'll see upstairs, the other branches are mainly Christian and they're by invitation only. Most brothers can aspire to join those branches of the order at some stage. In many cases it's a case to live horse and get grass, because the longer you live, the more likely you are to be invited into the higher branches of the order. But essentially, it's the invitation is issued by merit, by service to the order, and that's the thinking in the matter. We'll walk upstairs towards the preceptory room, which is a mock-up of a Christian chapel. A preceptory is a chapter of Templar Masons, Knights Templar. This branch of the order evolved much later than the origins of Freemasonry in the 1700s. This would have developed around about the late 1700s, about 1770, 1780, in Paris. There's no proven connection between Freemasons and the real Knight Templars who went to Jerusalem to take it back from the infidel and make it again a Christian city. This degree of Knight Templar was based on the original Knights Templar because the guys at the time in Paris didn't know that the Templars weren't terribly nice fellas at all, but they saw this as a useful legend for a Masonic Christian degree. It celebrates the Templars meeting as a chapter. We actually meet in that garb you see in the photograph at the back of the room with the white mantle, surcoat, funny hat, sword, etc., etc. And the principal officer is known as the eminent preceptor, who sits in that chair up there. Templar and other degrees, which I'll describe in a moment, progressed from northern Germany through Scotland with emigrants to the United States of America, where these Scots emigrants set up what was known as the Mother Supreme Council of the entire world. And it's from this Mother Supreme Council that you get the 33 degrees that people think of when they think of Freemasonry. And they came back to Europe in about 1820, and they were leapt upon by the Mother Grand Lodges, principally of England and Scotland. And for about 10 years they were frowned upon and banned. These add-ons or plug-ins that a brother can join can be most entertaining, very enjoyable, and gives him an opportunity for a certain amount of Masonic theatre. It's important to tell you that although this is set up as a Christian chapel, it's a mock-up. It's not in any sense a church. None of our rooms are temples, none of them are consecrated, none of them have any pretense to be holy. They're a stage for the enactment of a Masonic drama and the impartment of another Masonic message, a moral message. This room belongs to the Prince Masons, the 18th degree, and they included some very significant names in Dublin, principally, of course, the Duke of Leinster. I have to say that this branch of the order at one stage would have been quite exclusive. It used to meet at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and not too many working class fellas were free at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But I'm happy to tell you that now it includes practically everybody. It's still by invitation, and you have to progress from the room we saw next door, the Templar Masons, to this 18th degree of Prince Mason Rose Croix. There are 33 Prince Masons in a chapter. The 33 is also symbolised by the Masonic 3 of the 3 chandeliers in the ceiling, with 11 lights in each, giving us 33. At this stage, the lower numbers Masons are reasonably good at mathematics. So effectively you're waiting for somebody to fall off the twig before you can become a Prince Mason, because there can never be more than 33 in a chapter. The brethren who set up the original Prince Masons chapters evolved, like most of Freemasonry, from various other things. It probably evolved in northern Germany, and there was a maelstrom of thought going on in the 1700s in northern Germany. There was all sorts of religious conflict going on. And these guys were determined to meet under one banner, but from a point of view of non-denominationalism and no politics, etc. So they adopted certain symbols which were universal. One of them was the rose, which was a very ancient Christian symbol of Christ, secrecy, in Roman Catholic terms, the Virgin Mary. To Calvin, the rose meant the blossoming of the Old Testament with the coming of the New Testament, acceptable to Calvinists. It's found in the older Catholic churches in Dublin to this day over the confession box, the carved wooden rose, again meaning secrecy and Christ. These guys are also known as Knights of the Eagle and Pelican. Now, the double-headed eagle does not have some of the unsavoury origins that people ascribe to it. It's used in an honourable fashion by many, many European countries, and it has its origin in the eagle of the Roman legions. It came down to us through the Holy Roman Empire. The symbolism is the gatekeeper. In Roman mythology, the gatekeeper, Janus, had two heads. To a Freemason, the double-headed eagle would symbolise the regard for our past and looking forward towards our future.